my early 20s, I've got the responsibility to find a new home.
My country is not safe anymore.
The war in Palestine has been going on for so many years, and it doesn't seem to have an end.
The dictatorship is too suffocating.
If I had one wish in my entire life, I'd wish for Syria to be safe again.
The only thing that I want is to move to another country and take my family with me.
According to the article issued by United Nations by Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the world counted 272 million international migrants in 2019, representing 3.5% of global population. Young people, especially from developing countries, are the largest group of individuals migrating each year, where unemployment and dictatorship are the major factors back home. North Cyprus gathered young generations from developing countries who came to the island to pursue an education. The following stories will show what it is like to fight for your dreams as a student whose political instability back home is still a burden even thousands of miles away from the motherland.
My name is Ruwaida Al-Hamzi. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Yemen.
Hello, my name is Aysam Habash. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Syria.
My name is Maghazi and I'm from Sudan.
So the conflict initially started in 2011 when Yemen participated in the Arab Spring. Since then there have been various transitions of power and rise of different authorities, but it really hit hard in Yemen in 2015 when a Saudi-led coalition started striking missiles and declared a war on Yemen.
There has been a conflict in Syria since March 2011. It started as a peaceful revolution. People were just asking for some basic human rights, such as freedom of speech, education, and other just super basic things. And then the regime in Syria handled it really badly. It was shooting people, arresting people just for protesting. So people had to defend themselves, and things started to get ugly. And what started as a peaceful revolution just turned into a full-on civil war. And as the years passed, other countries and other groups started intruding in the Syrian war, and it turned into basically just a playground for everyone trying to grab what they want or look out for their benefit, and eventually the victim was the Syrian people.
Ever since the year 1989, Sudan was ruled by a military dictatorship. During these 30 years, Sudan suffered from political instability, economic inflation, and suppression of civilians from their basic rights. Basically, this is of course till the December Revolution in 2019.
So this all unraveled when I was still in high school, and I personally saw the difference between the educational system before all of this happened and the educational system after it happened. We went through so many obstacles. We couldn't even go to school sometimes because of how unstable the situation was. So choosing to study there and pursuing my university degree there was something it wasn't reliable. So I had to find a new solution and actually leave to make it better.
I had to leave Syria. I didn't choose to leave. I had to leave because my family and I faced some traumatic events due to the war and the whole just atmosphere of lack of security and lack of safety. And we had to leave. We were forced to leave 9 years ago, and till today we never went back, not even once. We didn't even visit.
So there was like an extreme incline in the quality of public schools and universities in Sudan ever since our government ruled. This incline was followed by a huge number of students transferring into abroad universities or private schools. I decided to travel outside of Sudan because I believe that a better education is going to be like a better plan for the future.
So because I live in the north of Yemen and the airports currently are only open in the south of Yemen, I had to travel for over 16 hours to reach an airport. In addition to being fortunate enough to have my mom's family from the south, so traveling with my grandpa made it safer because my name can indicate where I'm from and what region I am in Yemen. So it did worry me, especially because of hearing different stories from different people about being caught or questioned. But it did, I mean, not everyone is as fortunate as I was in this experience, but it does happen and it could happen.
People in Syria are, I would say, extremely scared of the government. Like if people were to travel or just to do anything, if they would go out to try to say something, they would just be extremely scared, to the point that my friends, people that I grew up with in Syria, when they're trying to buy a ticket to go study somewhere or go out or just for a holiday, nothing major, they would actually be scared of not being let go.
So when I was about to come here for the first time, I was actually scared to not make it to the airport because I was participating in the Sudanese revolution. I was captured for almost a day, but I was one of the few people who were let go of days before my flight.
So because of the situation happening back home, there's been a financial crisis as well. So due to that, people have been having a difficulty in taking their money out from their bank accounts and actually moving it around, sending it as well to their families who are abroad and receiving money from abroad. So I know many students, of course, who don't really have the chance to be able to get their money whenever they need it, wherever they need it, as well as the difficulty of obtaining that money in the first place.
We face many problems as Syrians abroad, and some of the problems are actually related to discrimination, which is quite a common problem, and people don't realize this. For example, the simplest thing, North Cyprus is considered very welcoming for foreigners, and then if you come here as a Syrian person, you cannot open a bank account just because you're Syrian. Like, you actually can't, it's impossible. The other issue that we face, and is like the serious issue, is the psychological stress that we get about basically being homeless. People like me who cannot go back to Syria because of the regime, because of the problems that they had. We basically have nowhere to go.
During the revolution, there was a lot of, let's say, economical and financial problems that I was going through as a student. My parents weren't able to send me any money due to the high exchange rates, due to the unsafety on the streets. They were mostly advised to stay at their homes. And emotionally speaking, I was going through a very tough time because I was away from my country during these times. I would hear about a lot of martyrs falling down, and I couldn't do anything about it.
So, I mean, I personally choose to be optimistic since I've seen that many of my generation especially have been leaving Yemen to pursue their education and to work and to find a better life. So I believe that when the situation settles down back in Yemen, they'd be able to go back and we'd be able to develop and build our country back again, which could make it better for the future generations. But if none of that actually happens, I'm pretty sure there will be an unfortunate outcome for the future generations.
The situation in Syria right now is calmer, but not necessarily better, because since the beginning of the revolution, there were worse days where more people were being killed and more people were being arrested. The situation was way worse, more violent in a way. But right now it's still very bad, even though not much killing or arresting is going on, because the regime won, basically. I mean, there's still lots of resistance going on, but it's still there. The dictatorship of Syria that caused all of this is still there, and they're probably going to be there for years to come, since this revolution relatively failed to this point.
All thanks to the Sudanese revolution that restored our hope that was lost for centuries. We all now believe that Sudan is going to be in a better place a few years from now, because there's a lot of young Sudanese that dedicated their lives to the growth of their country, basically. A lot of intelligent minds are cooperating together to the rise of our nation.
There's a difference between if I want to migrate and if I need to migrate. And I believe in the situation that I'm in and in the situation that Yemen is in, which is very critical, I need to migrate in order to get more experience and learn more to be able to help my country when I go back. Because now I wouldn't be able to help it as much as I would, especially with the situation that's going on.
For me and many other Syrian people as well, we don't have a choice to go back to Syria after we finish our studies, wherever, in North Cyprus or anywhere else. But the dream that I'm really chasing is not career related or anything else really. I just want to go to a place where I'm going to be treated equally, just like anyone else. You know, I just want to go to a country where they're going to treat me as a human and not as some second degree citizen of some kind. And that's really all we're asking for. That's all we look forward to.
My ultimate goal is to go back to my country, of course, to help build the nation. But however, I would like to go as qualified as possible, maybe after graduation or after I do my master's degree. But I would like to go to Sudan as qualified as I can. As a female civil engineer, I will participate directly in building the nation in a literal sense. And as a global equality and sustainable development advocate, I would like to build the nation in a metaphoric sense, as in build the minds of the nation, use all my skills and talents on the rise of our nation.
Global community needs to know that the problems which face developing countries nowadays cannot be maintained only within these states. Immigration issue is an example that having a dictator in one particular country can lead to global crisis with international responsibility. The questions community needs to ask nowadays is why United Nations fails to provide a solution towards this issue, and why government authorities who are committing a crime are not brought to justice before the international law.